Welcome back to the Get Off the Treadmill podcast for small business owners and entrepreneurs, where we show you how to build a successful business and to have a life too. We're going to dive into another topic that helps us make more money in less time and to get off the treadmill so we can experience a life of significance. And now, your host and the author of the #1 best-selling business book, Making Money is Killing Your Business, Chuck Blakeman.
Today, I'm with Stacy Voss, a very good friend of mine now, who is the founder of North Star GrantWriting, which helps small to mid-sized nonprofits expand their revenue streams and their impact. Stacy and her team help generate millions of dollars for their clients every year. When she isn't leading her grant writing team or writing herself, Stacy can be found hiking, paddleboarding, snowshoeing, or curled up in a hammock with a good book. And we already know this stuff about her, but we want you guys to figure out her journey. She was a solopreneur who didn't get paid if she didn't work. And today she's got a couple of admin in different countries, as well as 4 grant writers working for her. And now she gets to travel a lot and have a better work-life balance. And we want to find out more about that. Stacy, wonderful to have you on our show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a delight. We're excited to see where this takes us today in the short time we've got. It's been a long journey, and we're going to talk about it in a very short amount of time. So I'll let you start. You were a solo business owner. Some people call them solopreneurs. You were basically not really a business owner. You owned a job, right?
Yes,
Tell us about the job that you created for yourself.
Yeah, when I first started coming to 3 to 5, that was so offensive to me. I was like, no, I'm a business owner. I almost quit for that very reason, because I was like, I did not buy a job. I love what I do. I love what I do. And I do love what I do, but it took me, I'm a little stubborn sometimes. So it took me a long time to go, oh, that's what he's saying. I did buy a job. I just had better management than at my previous job.
Exactly. That's the difference. Is instead of working 50 hours a week for somebody else yelling at you, you work 50 hours a week for yourself yelling at you.
Precisely. Yes.
Yeah. You started out there, and what? Where does it go from here? I'll let you take the journey.
So I would say, someone introduced me to the concept of 3 to 5. I started coming to it. Like I said, I was really put off because I was like, no, this is a business. I'm not just I didn't buy a job. I love what I do and create great product.
So
And
before you go any farther, for some people who may not have seen any of our podcasts or don't know us, 3 to 5 Club is something that it's a masterminding group of business owners. We have these around the world, and it's up to 24 business owners in a group where we have facilitation of topics each time. People do bottlenecks on how to get things done in their business, and we learn how to grow our businesses to whatever size we want it to be. And I will say, we have people who are solopreneurs who have been in our business in 3 to 5 Clubs for 15 years, and they're very happy being solopreneurs. And they admit openly and welcomely, yep, I bought myself a job and I love it. So you get to be whoever you want to be.
yeah. So I would say through 3 to 5, as you were talking about process maps and different things and how to grow your company, that was never on my radar. When I first started coming, it's really just kind of amazing that I even came, quite honestly, because no, I have a great job. I'm happy. I had no desire to grow it. And yet through the things I learned, I started recognizing, especially in grant writing, if I scaled, there's a lot of grants that are due at the same time. And so it gets hard because if I want to serve more nonprofits, then they're all their really big grants are going to be due right around the same time. And one big grant can just be all consuming, let alone to do 5, let's say, simultaneously. And my brain just couldn't handle that. And so with time, I started saying, okay, I don't love every nonprofit, let's be real, but there's a lot that I really, really love. And prior to that point on the journey, when someone told me, oh, I run a nonprofit, I would just kind of want to cover my ears and be like, la, 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 don't tell me what you do. I don't want to know, because they'd go, oh, can't you help us? And there's so many, nonprofits are run by really passionate, visionary people typically. And I love just to stand behind them and help them. But obviously, if I spread myself too thin, I'm no longer an asset. So as you started teaching these concepts, I started thinking, well, if I grew my team, then we could help more nonprofits and yeah, it would still be quality work and it wouldn't just be me trying to do a lot of them all at once. So it took me a while to come around to that thought because have been a solopreneur and kind of as an artist too, it was hard to let go. One of my employees earlier, I love her dearly. She finally said, Stacy, your job, you brought me on so you would have more time because you didn't want to have to rewrite every proposal. And I'm like, oh, you're right. And so it was a real lesson of just me learning to trust more. Like, what
Yeah.
things do I want to teach my team that I believe are fundamental, that every proposal has to have things that we have to demonstrate, like who we are, our core values, how we operate within our company, how we operate towards our clients, knowing what things are essential. And yet it's writing. I mean, you're an author, you know this. Like
Mhm.
somebody might say the same exact thing as you, but they're going to say it totally different. And I had
Okay.
to learn to say, okay, I might not
Yeah.
always love how they say that. And so that's still a recurring theme that we have with our staff is when somebody reviews somebody else's work, okay, review the content, but let them still be their own writer. And
Yeah, it's great. Well, Barbara Corcoran, one of the sharks on TV, said to one guy, "I'm not going to back you, and the reason why is because you still think you're too important." And then she told her own story. She said, "I was too important and I couldn't get out of my own way and I could not grow my real estate business in New York City. And I finally broke through when I figured out nobody else is going to be Barbara Corcoran. It's not going to happen. And so I have to build I build this business without people, with other people who weren't Barbara Corcoran. Turns out there were a lot of people who weren't Barbara Corcoran who were every bit as good as her. And maybe it takes 2 or 3 people to beat her, but she found the people. But I call that having a bad case of the nobodies. And I think you fairly had that. Nobody's as good. Nobody's as invested. Nobody's as knowledgeable. Nobody's as good a writer. No, we all have it. I think 90+% of business owners start with nobody else can do this, which is why I'm killing myself.
yeah, it's my company. It started so much of like that proprietary. This is
My baby.
It's my baby and it's
Yeah.
my client. And I want to deliver the best product to my client. And it's fascinating that you say that because wow, we actually just hit 7 years.
Wow.
To me, somewhat feels very like noteworthy. Like just
Yeah.
with the stats of how few companies make it that long. It's been really fun now of who I hire. A lot of times I will intentionally hire people that I know are way more skilled in grant writing, at least in certain areas than I am. We've had a lot of nonprofits coming our way that are really niched with like recovery, sobriety. I don't know that field. And there's a lot of little nuances with it.
Oh.
So I've brought people on and they know that field so well. And I just go, okay, have at it, take it and run. And there's still our core things. This is how we present information. This is how we treat a client. But at the end of the day, I'm like, talk to this person. Same with international grants. I can kill on a like local grant, international. I don't know how to look for funders. It's not my skill set. But I have people on my team that are really good at that. So I'm like, okay, I connect them with the client. And it's been really fun to have people on my team that their skill sets don't match mine. And it just creates a whole new level of just beautiful. I mean, it sounds so obvious.
I've never thought of it this way, but as I'm hearing you, you've made a transition from a bad case of the nobodies to something I've never thought about before, but to a good case of the somebodies. There's somebody else who could do this. I don't know how to do it, but somebody could. So I'm gonna coin that going forward. And that's really the transition, isn't it? There was nobody who could do anything. And now you're saying, I can't do it, but somebody else could. That's an incredible flip. And until you get that kind of mindset, that's kind of one of the first things business owners have to come through is to realize that there are other people as good as me. I don't have to hire mini me like Austin Powers did. Mini me was kind of useless, couldn't even talk. But that's who we look for. Well, I can't find me, so I'll find somebody who's not quite as good as me. And you're looking for people who are better than you. That's a tremendous switch in your mindset.
Yeah, it's been an evolution. When I first started bringing people on, I kind of had a process of giving back because when I started as a grant writer, I had no experience and was hired on at a very crucial time in my life. And it played a huge role of, just helping me in so many ways. And so early on, I brought on people that only had limited grant writing skills. And I spent so much time training them how to write grants. And yes, I could train them in my style and how I say things, but it took 2 years to really train somebody well. It took me 2 years. And then with time, we started hiring people that had at least 5 years of grant writing experience. I have people on my team, a lot of them have like 15 or 20 years before they come to me, which is amazing. And so I don't even have to teach these fundamental things. It's just, once again, going back to core values and how we operate process maps. By making that shift, our impact has grown so much more because then they can take on more clients. We can generate more revenue. It's really just been this phenomenal progression that we've had.
So I want to talk about that progression. Before I do, I want to step back into something you said before. I want to highlight for people why someone like you might have a journey like this. One of the first things I heard from you was that you got over a bad case in the nobodies, but I also heard something else, that you're an artist, and artists don't like other people playing their violin. You know, I'm an artist. I went to one of the best music schools in the world, and I don't want anybody else touching my instrument, and I would prefer to play than to listen. And when I'm listening, I'm critiquing. And so it's kind of the bad case in the nobodies a little bit, but there's that altruism piece in artists as well, that altruists and artists have the hardest time letting go and building a business instead of doing it themselves. And the best encouragement I ever got on that was from a friend of mine who said, Chuck, your problem is you give from your root when you should give from your fruit. And it's, it's the idea of somebody banging on your door and saying, hey, you got an apple tree out back. Can I start an apple tree from your apple tree? And you go out back, sure. And you you chop out some roots and you give them some roots. I mean, you can do that 6 or 8 or 10 times and your apple tree falls over and you're done giving. If you want to be a better artist, you want to reach more people and be more altruistic with people and make a bigger splash in the world around you, you really have to figure out how to build a great root system, and then you can give away fruit forever. And it's a wonderful way. And I see that happening in your life and your business. You were helping exit, a small number of nonprofits. And when somebody else said they ran a nonprofit, you ran the other way because you couldn't help them. You were out of time. You were giving from your root. But now you got a whole bunch of people and you can take on a bunch of different things. And your impact in the world is 4 or 5 times what it was, 10 times what it was when you were doing it yourself. So I just put that out there for people who say, well, I like that, but I want to make sure that I help the right people. And I'm not about building a big business. I don't care about money. Well, that's fine. Build a bigger business so you can make a bigger impact in the world around you. And I think that's another piece of this that I'm hearing from you is you were happy to be a solopreneur for a while. Great. And now you have 4 grant writers and 2 admins, and you don't need a giant business and you don't want necessarily a giant business, but could you, if you wanted to, you could keep growing this and add more people and add complexities, and you could do that.
Absolutely.
Right?
All the processes are in place right now. And so if we needed to grow, we needed to double our team, it would take a few months just to bring on the right people, but we have everything else in place.
But I think that's a great message for business owners to hear who are on the journey from, I'm killing myself because I'm doing everything myself too. Yeah, but I don't want all the hassles of a giant business. Well, who said you had to do that? Build a business. We have it in our training room. You've seen it above the whiteboards in front. Make your own business rules, because he or she who makes the rules wins. So what size of business would serve you? Build that one. If it's 4 people, if it's 400 people, it doesn't matter. You get to decide and you get to build what you want. So before you were doing, let's work in terms of the 3 resources in life: time, money, and energy. When you were doing everything yourself, tell me how you were using your time, your money, and your energy. What was happening to those 3 things?
Most of my time and my energy went to grant writing, and it was unpredictable. So there were times earlier on where I had people on my team that were okay, maybe didn't want to have tough conversations with them. I started saying, hey, there's this big grant coming up. I think you really need to dedicate more time to it. Oh, okay. And they just were kind of on the periphery. Like it wasn't.
Well, let's go even back before that, before you even had people. Where was your
Okay.
time, money, and energy? Let's start there.
Okay, great question. So, like I said, grant writing can be very seasonal, very cyclical. And so there would be times where it would just be, I had lots of time, really not much money at the moment because it was just like, okay, things were slowing down. But then I might have 4 really big grants all at the same time. And that was high stress. Can
Feast
pull
and
it off
famine.
occasionally, but I don't even know. I mean, you just kind of hunker down, you spit stuff out, you hope it's good because you don't have the time to devote to it in the way that you would like to.
Yep. So is feast and famine. Same thing for accountant. They have the
Yes.
same issues that, they they have times when nothing's going. Farmers, we could go through probably 15 or 20 different seasonal things. Anybody whose business is totally dependent on Christmas or the holidays so there's a lot of businesses. And I think every business is, if not seasonal, at least has its ebbs and its flows. And when you were ebbing, you were having trouble making ends meet. When you were flowing, you were killing yourself. And that sounds like a lot of fun. So your time, your money, and your energy, it sounds like it was basically at the whim and will of your business.
Correct.
And I asked that because I think we need to bring in the concept of freedom here. What is freedom? Freedom is not freedom from. I don't think, I mean, it can be that. It can be freedom from things. But for business, I don't want freedom from my business. The only reason I want freedom from my business is because I hate my business. I got to sell the darn thing, get the heck out. Well, why do I hate it? Because I'm a prisoner. I'm a captive. I bought myself a job. And so I hate my business. And so I want freedom from it. Freedom for us, I think, is the ability to choose. As business owners, in its broadest context, it's the ability to choose, isn't it? And so what do I choose to do with my time, my money, and my energy? And I hear you saying when you were doing this by yourself, you really didn't have a choice. There wasn't anything coming in, so you goofed off if you could without money. And then when there's things coming in, you were a slave to your business because you didn't have any choice. Is that fair?
Yeah. The choice was, am I going to not do it? No, of course not. That's not even a choice. So
no freedom.
Of course I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And so now you have a team of people, and your time, your money, and your energy, how are they invested these days?
When you were talking about freedom, the first image that came to my mind was last week. My son, who's a junior in high school, typical screenager, doesn't want to hang out with mom. And I was like, hey, come on, let's go to the mountains. And I talked him into going to the mountains with me. It was just the two of us. It was amazing. We were rock climbing. We had a guide just for the two of us. And the guide's still setting up the ropes. And I happen to check, and I get a text from a client and a proposal that I had submitted for them the week before. There was a glitch in the system and it hadn't actually been submitted. And freedom, I'm literally like in the harness to like climb. I had cell coverage and I could just text two people on my team and say, hey, I need someone to jump on, and we share all of our files so they have the passwords, they could get into the portal, and the thing got fixed while I was rock climbing. And to me, that is freedom, that I don't have to sit and watch everything, that I can go. I'm about to do my 7th trip next month. 3 of them have been out of the country this year. So I've been able to travel a lot more, spend a lot more time with my family, have very intentional time where I'm not watching my phone, what's happening. Like, it's in good hands. When I travel, my clients know who they can contact in my place. So it's just taken care of. Everything is smooth when I come back. There's not these, okay, you're on vacation, but now you have to tackle everything when you get back.
That's how vacation used to be for me when I was doing it by myself. Vacation was, I'm going to work twice as hard the week before I leave to get as far as I can. And then I'm going to, the first 3 days of vacation is just decompressing and trying to get to zero because you're blown up. And then you have 2 or 3 days of vacation. And then you have 2 or 3 days of worrying at the end of vacation about what you're going to get dumped on. And then you go back and you get there and you spend the next week working twice as hard in order to catch up. And those 3 weeks are a week of vacation.
Right.
I don't, so I commiserate with you, and that is not fun. So you're not experiencing that these days. You're about to have a 7th vacation or 7th time away in a little over 9 months. That's almost one a month. My schedule is I want 2 days a week and a week a month where I get up in the morning and say, what should I do today? And it took me about 4 or 5 years to achieve that. Some people got there in 2, some people it took longer, but you've got it sounds like you've got what we would call somewhat of an ideal lifestyle where you've got the time, the money, and the energy to have freedom and say, what should I do today?
Yes. That's a powerful, powerful statement right there.
I was just going to say, how does that feel?
I'll just use the word you've been using, is freedom.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. It's goals that I had hoped for, but didn't really know if it was possible. So not just time goals, but being in 3 to 5. I left my folder outside. I have my desk outside usually, but it's sunny. But I have it written down in terms of how many weeks I'm going to work in the year, how often I'm taking time off to make sure that I'm very driven. And if I'm not careful, I will just get myself so sucked into work. And so I have to put up those buffers for myself. But then I also had this kind of rubric of like grants feed houses, feed wells, like what I want to do big picture. It's not just getting grants for my nonprofits, which is super powerful in and of itself. But then as my company generates revenue, what do I get to do with that? And so to be able to partner with people that are accomplishing the things outside of grant writing, water access, and these big passions that I have, that I wouldn't have dreamt of 4 years ago.
Yeah, and that's a really beautiful place to go with this, because if you want to have a splash in the world, you can make a bigger splash if you have a bigger root system. And a bigger root system means having a company, not just being a solopreneur. You can give away and invest more time, money, and energy in all the things that make meaning for you in ways that you couldn't in the past. That's a delightful and really important thing to get to. I want to ask this. Your before and after are radically different. Are you any different? Are you the same person, not spiritually temperament, but in terms of how smart you are and how capable you are as a human being? Were you capable back then? I think it seems like you probably were. That doesn't seem like what may have shifted for you, that all of a sudden I'm smarter or I'm luckier. I don't hear that. I hear that there was something else that happened that got you from your before and after. You're not smarter. You're not luckier. What was it?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was smarter or luckier. I think in some degree I have more confidence now than I did before. I didn't believe that I could do things, and then I had to have people teach me to stand out of my own way. Like my one employee that said, "Hey,
Get
this
out of your
isn't
own
going to
way."
work if you're going to redo all of my work." And so she helped. She was so formative to help me stand down, essentially. A little bit's been luck of just having, I really feel like it was luck that I was introduced to someone who said, go to 3 to 5. It was such an odd coincidence that someone introduced me to that. And yet I really attribute the things that you helped me learn to saying, oh, it's just kind of these little steps. Like we talk about the 2.1, what is the one thing we're going to do in the next 2 weeks? And it was just those little steps that was this progression. And I wouldn't say fundamentally I'm any different than I was before.
No, I think that's really important for our business, for our hearers to hear, because a lot of times they'll hear, oh, Stacy gets, all these vacations and she can give money away now. Boy, I wish I was that lucky or that smart. I wish I could figure this out. And I hear two things minimum. There's probably more, but one is you changed the slide in your head. You took a different view of the world. The big mindset shift is what we call it. You were a solo business owner who basically said, I'm going to make money. I'm going to write grants and I'm going to make money. And the slide changed in your head to, I'm going to own a business that writes grants and makes money. It's a very subtle, very powerful difference. I'm making money. I'm building a business that makes money. And that, I heard that difference is that you wanted to have a bigger splash in the world around you. And the second thing I've heard, Stacy, and I know you, is that you were intentional. We talk about this all the time. You get what you intend, not what you hope for. Well, you intended to be a solopreneur, and that's what you did. But then you weren't any smarter, you weren't any lot more lucky. You just changed your intention and said, well, now I think I'll build a business. And gee, what a surprise. You did. So it wasn't that simple. It wasn't that easy. But does that sound in the ballpark? And then what roadblocks, what stumbles did you come across as you made that shift?
Some of the roadblocks, yeah, first of all, yes, that sounds absolutely accurate of what you're saying. Some of the roadblocks have been in part finding people to be part of the team that, are equally passionate and skilled. And I think COVID has really, in its own weird way, helped with that because it's opened up the world. And so now I have people on my team actually all around the world. And it's
so you had some just mechanical problems that you had to overcome, that everybody has that to overcome. But why did you want to overcome them? There's
really,
something driving.
I love my nonprofit so much, and I want exceptional writers. I want exceptional outcomes for my clients because
Right.
I know what they're doing, and I know if we get them more money, I know what they will be able to do. And so I want the best person writing grants for them and producing optimal outcomes for them.
And having 5 people doing that instead of 1, you're going to be able to impact more of them. So you have that again, that altruism that says, I want to make a bigger splash in the world around me. We just scratched the surface here. I just have to say how much I love and appreciate and honor your journey and how you have taken the bull by the horns and just said, hey, this is where I was, and this is where I want to be. And you got to where you want to be, and you've got the ideal lifestyle, the time, the money, and energy that you want. And you didn't have to wait until you're retired. You could do that 30, 40, who knows how many years before anybody even would dream of that dumb thing we call retirement. So I just love that you've done this. It's a testimony to other people that they don't have to be smarter. They don't have to be luckier. They just have to change the slide in their head and go for it.
Yeah. For me, it was almost like the timer was ticking, because why would I want to achieve all of this when I'm 60, 70 years old?
Too late.
Yeah. My youngest is in high school, which means there's very few grains of sand left in that, where he's still at home, or my oldest is wrapping up college and then she'll move back home. And so to have that time where they're still in the house and to say, oh, I'm too busy to hang out with you today. Hey, mom, you want to do this? Nope, I can't. And so I had to change it because I don't want to be one of those people that I'll be available when they have kids. And they're like, why is grandma, available, but she wasn't as a mom. And so that became part of the intentionality is why am I going to wait 15, 20 years to
I
achieve?
love it. That's beautiful. Coulda, shoulda, woulda is not the regret of a person who has freedom in their business. How can people get a hold of you if they are hearing and they happen to know someone who has a nonprofit or they are in a nonprofit and they need a grant writer? How can people get a hold of you, Stacy?
Best way is just to go onto our website, North Star GrantWriting. So www.northstargrantwriting.com. My email is Stacy at so STACY at northstargrantwriting.com.
Beautiful. We appreciate you. We love you. We love your testimonial. Thanks for being a part of what we're doing here.
Thank you so much for having me on.
That wraps up another episode of the Get Off the Treadmill podcast. If you found this podcast helpful, please subscribe and hit the like button to ensure you are receiving the latest tools you need to grow your business and to get off the treadmill. If you want more information on the 3 to 5 Club, the Crankset Group, or to book Chuck as a business advisor, speaker, or workshop leader, you can contact us at grow@cranksetgroup.com. Until next time, have a great week.